You've watched more YouTube videos than you care to remember, and you might even have worked with an in-person coach, yet despite knowing exactly what you need to do to improve your technique, it's not really changing. Sure, you can hit the occasional great shot, but the majority of the time it's too inconsistent, especially when you're playing matches, and especially when you're trying to be more aggressive. So the question is why, and what do you need to do to fix the problem? I'm going to be answering both of these questions in this video and explaining what you need to work on to finally develop technique that you can feel confident in when you're playing a match. So if your technique isn't improving, there are only two real reasons why this is happening. The first is to do with the way that you practice. Either you're not practicing consistently enough, you're working on the wrong thing in your practice, or you're just not being disciplined enough with the way that you practice. Because if you do perform consistent, high quality practice, your technique will gradually improve over time. The only reason it won't improve if you're doing high quality practice consistently is if there's some kind of physical limitation that's holding you back. And that could mean a number of different things, but generally here what I'm talking about for most players is lack of eye to foot and eye to hand coordination. So not being able to read the flight of the ball quickly enough and accurately enough, which means that you aren't able to prepare in the right way and use good footwork and set up in optimal positions, maybe not being able to track the ball well enough through to contact, and not having sufficient coordination in order to be able to make technical adjustments on your shots. But what we're going to be focusing on in this video is the practice side of things. If you'd like to learn more about improving your skill, that's something that I teach players how to do using brain-based training, and I've got a class that's going to teach you all about it. I'll place a link to that in the description. I find that most players spend more than enough time on court to improve their technique, but there is a massive difference between playing lots of tennis and performing high quality practice. Just going out and hitting balls without any focus and just playing points and playing matches is never going to let you develop your technique in the way that you want. Instead, you have to be extremely disciplined in the way that you practice. And what I mean by that is you have to focus on one or two aspects of your technique at the time. So you're not going to be focusing on the whole forehand or the whole backhand or the whole serve. Obviously, you're going to have an awareness and an understanding about all those different pieces, but there's a lot of stuff involved and it's simply too many things for our brain to focus on at any one time. And that's why you need to choose the underlying problem with your strokes. So you want to record yourself and find out what the underlying problems are, and then you have to focus on that, and you have to focus on it for long enough and be very disciplined. And I find that this is one of the biggest things that players struggle with. Even when I work with them inside my coaching program and I tell them what to work on, players really struggle to stay disciplined on the one thing for long enough. So I'm going to give you 3 different examples of really common problems to help you understand how this works and to help you develop more discipline within your practice, because learning how to do this is the real key to let you develop your technique and become a much better player. So high quality practice is about choosing what to work on and then setting up your practice so you can get repetitions at the right level of difficulty, allowing you to focus on the thing that you're trying to fix. And then you need to get feedback about your performance to identify if you did it well or not. Because what you don't want is to do it incorrectly thousands of times and make bad habits even worse. So feedback is going to be a key part of it. If you're fortunate enough to be able to afford a coach 5 times a week and they can be out there every time you play, then the coach can give you feedback. But for most people, that's not realistic. So you have to find a different way to get feedback. Video camera can be really helpful because you can watch it back and you can see what's happening. But over time, your goal is to improve your body awareness and train you to monitor yourself in real time. And it's just the skill that you develop to become more aware about what's happening on court, because then you can correct it instantly and it can enable you to improve faster. So the first example I'm going to give you is using a split step. I'm choosing a split step because it's the starting point of every high-level shot. Players land from their split step and start their preparation. It's a key feature. So are you split stepping? Record yourself, find out if you're doing it or not. But then in terms of your practice, I'm rallying with a practice partner and all I'm thinking about is trying to do a split step and trying to land my split step at the right time. And in terms of when we want to land our split step, we're going to be landing the split step, so coming down just after our opponent makes contact. So my opponent makes contact, I'm in the air while my opponent makes contact, then the ball travels a small distance, I land, and then I can immediately react because I'm able to read where the ball's going. So the skill is thinking about all that stuff while you're practicing and evaluating your performance on did you do it. And again, you can record yourself and see whether you're doing it, but ideally you can start to become aware of whether you're doing it or not. The other key is not to think about other stuff. My job is, did I time my split step? So if I time my split step and then I just shank the ball over the back fence, that's okay, because I've identified that the split step is the thing that I'm working on, and I've got to have all my focus on that thing. Conversely, if I don't do a split step and I just happen to rip an amazing winner, I can't mentally reward myself because I failed at the thing that I was trying to do. My one job in life was to time the split step, and I didn't do it. So although the ball went in, that isn't a good thing, because we have to focus on the thing and train ourselves to do that over and over again, and we have to do it basically 10,000 times, really concentrating on it to develop a new habit. And then once we've got that, then when we're rallying, when we're playing points, when we're playing matches, we're just going to be split stepping automatically, and that's how we really fix a problem, and then we can move on to the next thing. We're going to do one more example for ground strokes, and then we're going to move on and give an example for the serve. Now, the example I'm going to choose this time is spacing. Most players get too close to the ball and it prevents them from using optimal biomechanics. So you want to record yourself and find out if this is happening to you. So for all of our shots, we've got a natural swing path. So say on my forehand, I want to contact the ball where my strings are. If I only set up this far from the ball, I have to compensate in some way. Same thing for the one-handed backhand. Look where my strings are. If I'm too close to the ball, I have to arm it and compensate. Two-handed backhand, exactly the same. Slice backhand, we can be a little bit closer, but the same applies. If we get too close, we have to compensate. So if you've got issues with spacing, you need to fix them. And then we do it in exactly the same way that I've just described for the split step. We set up our practice, get repetitions, and focus on correcting that one thing and get feedback about what we're doing. Now, I'm naturally a right-handed player, and I've been relearning to play left-handed for the last few years, and I did a lot of ball machine work. So I would start out maybe with a neutral stance forehand, and all I'm focusing on is trying to get the spacing. And then I'm evaluating my performance on, did I get good spacing or not? And if I got good spacing, but I missed the shot, I'm good with that because I've achieved what I'm trying to achieve. Whereas if I got too close to the ball and then I hit the shot in, I had to go, okay, no, although the ball went in, I failed at the thing that I'm trying to achieve, which was getting correct spacing. So you have to get the feedback and evaluate your performance on whether you did the thing or not. So recording yourself or developing the awareness to tell what's going on. And then I would just work on different feeds. So maybe I then work on high forehands and short forehands and wide forehands, and then make it more and more complicated by feeding balls in different places. So it was more random, but all the while, I'm just getting more and more repetitions, focusing on setting up the right distance from the ball. So then when I practice with partners, then I can better judge the distance and set up the right distance from the ball. And after enough repetitions, now it starts to happen naturally when I'm playing points and when I'm playing a match. Now, obviously, if you don't have access to a ball machine, you've just got to do the best that you can in the situation that you've got. So it might be working with a practice partner, rallying, or whatever you can do, but it's still the same process. Focus on the one thing and evaluate your performance on that one thing. Think about it enough until it becomes a habit, and then move on to the next thing. So now I want to give you an example from the serve, and the example that I'm going to choose on the serve is the ball toss. The reason I'm choosing this example is because it is probably the most common problem that I see that holds players' serves back. A lot of players are focusing on the precise biomechanics and the racket drop, and all those things are obviously important. But if one ball toss is over there and you're stepping forwards, the next one's over here and you're stepping back, or it's too low and you're contorting your body into different positions, it's the ball toss that's holding your technique back, and that's what you focus on. So that means just doing disciplined repetitions. Maybe instead of going out and playing a match, you just get a basket of balls and you go to the court and you just focus on your serve. So it might be just practicing the ball toss, getting into your loaded or trophy position without hitting the ball. That might be the right level of difficulty. Or maybe I'm at the point where I'm serving, but again, I'm evaluating my performance on, did I get the ball toss into the correct position? Did I keep my arm straight? Did I release the ball at around eye height? So all the technical things that I'm trying to achieve in order to get a ball toss. Not, did the ball land in? Did the ball go at 100 miles an hour? So if I throw the ball into a really strange position and happen to slap it at 100 miles an hour and it goes in, that's not good, because I failed at the thing that I'm trying to achieve and that I've identified is going to help me to improve my technique. Whereas if I do a poor quality serve in terms of the results, so I miss the serve, but I get the ball tossed into the correct position, I have to go, great job, Richard, keep doing that, because the more I do that, once that becomes a habit, then that's going to lay the foundations for me to develop every other aspect of my serve and eventually get to the point where I can just serve naturally in a flowing way, and it's going to hold up under pressure in matches. Now, I've repeated the same key points 3 times there with different examples because it's such an important thing to wrap your head around. Once you learn to do this, once you develop the discipline within your practice, this really is the key for improving your technique and becoming a better player. Now, obviously, earlier on, I also talked about the skill component. If you don't have the visual ability to read the flight of the ball and track the ball and judge how far it is so you can start your swing at the right time, or you don't have sufficient coordination that's really going to allow you to make the technical adjustments, that is going to be a huge piece as well. But I've got that class in the description that's going to teach you all about it. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully everything I've explained here makes sense. You just have to approach things logically, record yourself, find out what's going on, choose the underlying problem, get feedback during your practice to make sure that you're doing it well, get enough repetitions to develop new habits, and your technique is going to progress massively. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it really helps me out if you could do that as well. I'll catch you next time.